Hi, I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins from Your Black World, and I'm here with Noma Langa Mushali Moses from HealthyBlackWoman.com. How you doing today, Noma?
I'm doing great, boys. How are you?
I'm doing just as well as I was 10 minutes ago when we recorded our first conversation, but I'm glad you asked. Thank you. You know what? I was reading about this brawl that happened at the New Salem Missionary Baptist Church down in Memphis, which Memphis is so interesting because Memphis always has the crazy church stories. Love the people in Memphis. I got a lot of friends in Memphis, but the churches in Memphis are kind of crunk. It seems like. I mean, it seems like there's just kind of like stuff that happens in Memphis churches that you just don't read about anywhere else, and I find that so interesting. I don't know what to make of that, but it looks like two women got into a fight over a man. The two women, one's last, Beverly Malam and Terry Bell. According to a police report, the argument began at an earlier church gathering, a Wednesday night Bible study. Yes, Lord. Malam says she confronted Bell about sleeping with somebody and told her to stop. And she claims that that's when Bell got in her face. And then it looks like they also had another altercation, and that one of the women's daughters had gotten in the middle of it, and then they just kind of came to blows all over a man. What do you think?
Well, as the story goes, it gets even worse because apparently family members from both sides got into the fight until it was one big brawl.
Okay, well
Uh,
you can't have a good rumble without bringing in some cousins and babies' mamas and so. Okay, go ahead.
yeah. And you may not like me saying this, but to me, this is why I often say that we're sometimes too hard on some of these housewife shows and hip hop and I don't know, all the variations of these shows where they have these black women who eventually get into fights and sometimes the fights turn physical. I do think that sometimes those shows are just showing what happens sometimes to some black women, not all. So that's why I don't really have as much of a problem with them because I think that they're just showing what goes on. And this is the perfect example. You come to a woman, you wag your finger in her face, and you tell her who to sleep with or who not. And I imagine it was, he's mine, so don't touch him or don't sleep, whatever. And then people get angry, and then they get into a fight. That happens. I don't think we should normalize it. And I'm glad to say I've never seen it happen to any people that I know, but I can't deny that it happens.
Um, okay, you're right. It does happen. Um, and it's kind of like one of those things where you're trying to figure out, um, how do we get to a point where grown people are not throwing blows at each other, right, in church? What do you say about that? I mean, obviously it's immature. Some would say it's even misdirected. When you see when you see two men fighting over a woman, for example, you would say, well, what's the woman's role in all this? The same thing is true when you see two women fighting over a man. What's the
Mhm.
man's role in this? Is he playing the women against each other, or is this just a matter of two women liking him at the same time and competing for territory? And on one hand, you want to say, well, why would you be fighting over a man anyway? And that's always been my reaction. Why not fight the man, especially if he did something wrong? But maybe the man didn't do anything wrong. It could also be a case where they're competing and one woman feels disrespected by the other one, so it becomes literally an issue between you and that person, as opposed
Right.
to an issue between you, the person, and somebody else. It's not as much. I mean,
Right.
your love is triangular, but your anger is unilateral, right? I'm mad at you, you're mad at me. This ain't got nothing to do with him, you know. But
Right.
um, but so what do you think? I mean, do you think that most people in that same situation would react the same way that these two women reacted in church over this issue?
My first answer would be no. My first answer would be no because again, like I said, I've never seen that happen and I've never had it happen to me. But I also understand that not everybody functions like me and the people that I know. Um, I will say the behavior is outrageous. And it's appalling, but again, it does happen. And I will say that it's easy to point fingers at them, but I think that sometimes people have anger bubbling just under the surface, and they need just one thing to provoke them or trigger them, and then it gets physical. I'm not saying that it's okay, but again, I keep reiterating this. That's some people's reality. That's some people's reality. They have a lot of anger and hurt and pain and what have you, and they feel threatened and they just turn to violence, and that's their reality. I think what's the funniest thing to me was that the first incident happened at a Bible study, which, if if you subscribe to religion, the whole point of religion is to learn a way of life that makes you better and makes your life better. So it's interesting to know.
That's not the point of religion for a lot of people. We know you and I both know this. I mean, for a lot of
Right,
people,
but
a lot of
that's
people,
what religion is. Yes, it's a way of
right?
life.
It's supposed
The
to
different
be.
religions are different ways of life, and not just a way, a better way to be better. To be quote unquote saved, to have a better life. And then church service, which same thing. You're supposed to go to church to assemble with the brethren, pray, worship. Um, Learn about the Word of God, which again is the good news about something good, something better. So that's the part that's a little tricky to me about this whole story, that it happened at I think it was a women's prayer meeting or Bible study, and then again a church service. So you do have to wonder, weren't they listening at Bible study or during the sermon? That puzzles me.
Well,
What do you think?
I think a lot of people don't really go to church to really truly learn how to be better, more disciplined people. A lot of people go to church because they want to fit in. Because when they were little, their mothers told them, if you don't go to church, I'm going to spank you. So they go to church. It becomes more of a social exercise, more so than a spiritual exercise. We know this. I mean, the percentage of black women in the South who go to church is through the roof. The peer pressure is very strong. I know a couple of black women who say, look, I don't go to church because I'd rather be spiritual. I'd rather just be a good person, and I don't subscribe to everything I learn in church. And those women tend to get picked on by other women, kind of bullied, or if something goes wrong in your life and somebody comes along and says, well, the reason that your life is going wrong, girl, is because you ain't got Jesus, and, and so they're made to feel very guilty about this. So there's not a live and let live kind of philosophy there. It's more so of a peer pressure thing. So what you end up having is you'll have people that go to church every Sunday, can quote Bible verses all day, but they're living a lifestyle that's just through the roof. They will punch somebody out. They will go sleep with somebody's husband. They will go and maybe steal money or whatever. Like they will live the other 6 days of the week as if they didn't go to church on the seventh day. Because the seventh day exercise is it's all about something other than getting closer to God and truly living a life that is consistent with the Bible that you carry around in your purse. I think that when you look at that situation, what's unfortunate is that sometimes when violence comes and hits you in the face, you sometimes feel like you have to respond with violence, right? And I see that, and sometimes we all fall for that. But I think most normal people understand that when you're grown, when you're over the age of 18, you can't just punch somebody because you're mad at them. You can't. You go to jail for that. I mean, and that's the part that's kind of interesting to me. I mean, maybe when people just go to jail, it's just over and they pay their bail and they don't care. But I think I see a lot of people that do go to jail and they don't like being in jail. Jail is a horrible place. They don't have the money to pay bail. They don't have money to pay for lawyers, and they certainly don't want to go to prison for assault. But that's what happens when you decide to become physically aggressive against somebody because you don't like her, or that that MF did something to me, or that bitch, blah blah, whatever. I mean, okay, you can be mad about that, you can cuss about it, you can scream and complain, but when you get to the point where it crosses the line into physical aggression, it becomes a whole different ball game, right? So that's my thought on it. I'll let you get the last word.
The other point that I was gonna bring up is, I think that this is a thing that comes up a lot, that I question a lot, is this notion that people own other people. Because she's literally saying, well, not literally, but she's saying, don't touch him. And then if you don't comply, in other words, don't touch my toy. And if you do touch it, I'm going to get very mad. Or if you don't comply, I'm going to physically assault you. But it's the notion that he's mine. I own him. And if you don't stay away from him or don't agree to stay away from him, then I feel justified in physically assaulting you. So, of course, people make commitments to each other, and I think that it's important to honor our commitments. I certainly do. I've been married for a while, and I honor that commitment. But I just have never understood this notion of people feeling like they own other people to the point where they'll fight other people and threaten and do other things to other people because they feel like you touch somebody that I own or that's mine.
Hmm. Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, so you fight the person that you're mad at because they touch something that belongs to you, and let's say you win the fight. What happens after that? I mean, how does that all work? I mean, do you really have control? Have you really conquered the space that you think you've conquered, or in some cases they'll just go sleep with somebody else, or they'll go sleep with the person behind your back. I mean, if they want to sleep with
Right.
them, they're gonna find a way. So I don't know.
Right.
This whole fighting in church, or just fighting period. If you're grown, don't fight people. Like, don't go sue them, talk about them, whatever you want to do, but don't go throwing blows. You're too grown for that. So that's all I want to say. Thank you, Normal Lang. I appreciate your time. All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Everybody, this is Nomalanga Mushali Moses at HealthyBlackWoman.com. I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins from Your Black World, and as you might already know, but I'm going to remind you, we have a new film out called Resurrecting Black Wall Street about the Black Wall Street atrocity in 1921. It is an awesome, awesome conversation that we need to have in every black family in America. I hope you will please, please, please support the film. You can do that and watch the trailer as well at ResurrectingBlackWallStreet.com. That's ResurrectingBlackWallStreet.com. And until we meet again, please stay strong, be blessed, and be educated. We are gone. Peace.